Hey there, Joy Beland here for another episode of CMMC Explained, and I'm super excited because I have all of our great staff members joining us week in, week out, talking about what their role is in the CMMC assessment process and what their take is on how the organization seeking certification are handling their preparation and readiness. So as part of that today, I'm joined by Tyler Gormus, and Tyler has been with Edwards coming on 3 years now. He is a certified ethical hacker. He works as a junior cybersecurity consultant on our team. Tyler, welcome.
Nice to have you. Hey everybody, how's it going?
So I wanted to have Tyler come and talk a little bit because he has been going on 20 different assessments at this point. And from my understanding, you're working on 853, 171, and then throwing in some of the CSF and HIPAA into the types of assessments that you have been actively involved in here at Edwards. And when I was talking to you in our PA training, and congratulations on just getting your recent certificate of participating in provisional assessor, one of our, 5 provisional assessors that we have on the Edwards team. We were talking about the different domains, and you were really interested in the risk assessment and security assessment domain. So I wanted to ask you to give us more information on that. Let's start with the risk assessment domain.
We've seen clients often mix them up, the two, security control assessment and a risk assessment, where they both need to be conducted annually, but a security control assessment will be focusing on a framework. So you have CMMC 800, 171, 853, and you'll take those controls and assess their implementation currently. And the security assessment domain often, has 3 other components of it. It has an SSP, it has POAMs, and then it has continuous monitoring. So if you're doing a CMMC assessment against 130 controls, they only have 100 of them in place. You will give them POAMs. They'll have 30 POAMs that will give them a roadmap of how to implement them. So the next time they come around for an assessment, they will be ready.
Right. And in the context of CMMC, I'm just going to interject, that really would be helping with readiness for their formal assessment, because you can't have a POAM with open items that pertain to the CMMC level 3 when you go in to do the formal assessment, right? But that POAM is critical to show that you created it and you are measuring and monitoring the effectiveness of those controls that should be implemented, right? So it's really proof that you made your security control assessment and you have created the POAM, and then you have fulfilled those items in the POAM as it pertains to being ready for the formal assessment.
Correct, and that's a really good point to bring up too. So that would be an example of a readiness assessment. Well, if you're doing a formal CMMC assessment, you could get a 90-day window to remediate only if you have less than 10% missing controls, and there can only be in a max of 2 domains.
And the lead assessor has to agree that they're willing to do that. It's not a given that they'll do it.
Correct. So if an assessor says, yes, you fall under the 10% category, but we don't believe that these controls could be implemented in 90 days. Let's say, for example, you're missing an entire audit capability. You need a SIM, you need all kinds of technologies to stand up. An assessment team would say, look, you won't be able to get that in 90 days. So they'd say, we recommend to come back when you guys are ready. So whether that be 3, 6, 12 months down the road.
And then talk to me about the difference that is challenging for people to grasp between a risk assessment and a security assessment.
Right. So with the risk assessment, I think it's really important to have a clearly defined scope before you start, because that kind of allows the organization to choose whether they want to do a risk assessment against the entire organization, maybe against just a department or a business function, or if maybe it's just a system, for example. So the organization does have the ability to choose whether they want to do an organizational risk assessment, or they want to just choose, we've scoped out these handful of systems and people for our CMMC. They could just do their risk assessment against that business or organizational unit. And that's typically conducted with looking at different threats, vulnerabilities, the likelihood and impact of that risk. Some examples could be legal risks, technology risks. Maybe you have an end-of-life system coming up, or operational risks, and the list goes on and on.
Excellent. And in my mind, the risk assessment is really the language that the board members and the leadership speak to understand what their investment and their risk tolerance is. I mean, that is a high level conversation that includes a lot of strategy, and that's going to get you to, is there a return on investment for us to even go through CMMC level 3 certification? But understanding where those gaps are and the impact, right? And then the cost to remediate is a really big part of the planning process.
Right. Yeah. Risk assessment definitely could be something that justifies an organization spending more money, whether it's on a tool, technology, or, additional staffing. It definitely plays into that overall board management.
Mm-hmm. So a big distinction between a risk assessment and a security assessment or security controls assessment. I know that we're stacking up our booked assessments over here at Edwards and actively helping a ton of organizations. So that's really exciting stuff. And I just wanted to spend some time with you, Tyler. I appreciate your coming in and lending your perspective today. And as always, if anybody has any questions about readiness assessments, getting their ducks in a row, if you will, to make sure that when the formal assessment time comes, they're ready to go, reach out to us here at Edwards. We are here to help shepherd this process for you, and we're all in this together. Thanks again, Tyler.
Yep. Thank you, Joy.